Okay, everyone, go ahead and turn to number 5. I'm going to do number 5 because there's no pre-selected points. The number 6 and 7 is going to go ahead and help you because there's pre-selected points. Directions say, calculate the rate of change and unit rate for the following graph. So I'm going to kind of zoom in just a little more so you guys can see. And we always want to read our graph first. My y-axis and my x-axis. My y-axis represents distance in miles, so we're going to talk about miles, over time, which is representation of hours, okay? The best thing to do is look on the graph here and find all points that are evenly working along with the grid. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm just going to keep putting each point that I see. The main thing about this one is finding easy points that can be calculated along your y and x axis. You don't want anything that's going to be halves, which will cause decimals. In this case, I'm going to pick 320 because it's even, and I'm going to use 0, 0 as my point. 0, 0 makes it easier to calculate. So my first point on the x-axis, when you write your points, you're going to start here. Remember that when we talk about y and x, we're talking about rise over run. How much did my graph rise? From 0 to 320, I started at 0, so I rose all the way to 320. Okay? Again, on my y-axis, we're talking about miles. Now my hours, which is along my x-axis, how much did I run? So I'm starting here and I run and I go down, and that is going to be 5. That is what I'm going to call my rate of change. Now that's the first part. We calculate a rate of change. But the second part says, what is the unit rate? So now I got to calculate unit rate. So for unit rate, I'm going to use my rate of change of 320 over 5. If we remember unit rate, we need to divide by the denominator. Anything divided by itself is going to be 1. 5 divided by 5 is going to be 1. When we divide 320 divided by 5, like I said, you can use a calculator. I'm more worried about the concept. You're going to get 64. And if we go back to what we wrote here, that's 64 miles per an hour. Going back to the directions, we want to make sure we showed our work. We did that here and explain our reason. So we're going to say that according to this graph, it takes 1 hour to travel, because we're talking about distance traveled, 64 miles. In this video, I'm going to show a few more, but when we're done, in your groups, I want you to work on number 6, and let me zoom out. Number 6 and 7. Do the same thing here. Read your graph. Find out what your y and x axis represent. Go ahead and turn to number 10. The directions, again, is going to tell us what we're talking about. That should be key in what you're going to do for, or what you're going to look for in your reference book. In this case, it says convert the following equations from standard form to slope-intercept form. If we remember, this is standard form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M is my slope, and b represents my y-intercept. With this here, I have negative 3y plus 2x equals 12. I want it in this form. So if I look here, I have a 2x, which is representation of my mx. I'm going to inverse the whole thing. Since I'm inversing the 2 and the x, I am going to do subtraction, since the original is addition. I'm going to bring down my 3y, negative 3y, and I'm going to write the negative 2x first, because it's in my slope formula. Negative 2x plus 12. I chose this one because it has a negative. I'm going to check my slope formula. Y equals mx plus b. Does not have a coefficient, so I'm going to divide just by the coefficient. That's why it is the inverse of division, because you're not getting rid of the y. This will cross out since it's my zero pair. I'm going to get y equals. Now we got to simplify. We have a double negative, so in this case, we're going to turn it to positive, but leave the fraction because it cannot simplify. We have a negative divided by a positive, so it will be negative. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Now I'm going to go back to my question. What is the slope of the line? It's not asking my y-intercept. It's just asking the slope. And if we look here, my slope is not my x, but just my m. So my slope for this question is 2/3. So remember, just go back to the question. We're going to do one more. I'm going to leave the rate of change from a table, and if it's a linear function, because you guys know that pretty well. The last one I'm going to do is number 13. So let's go ahead and zoom in. There's a couple things that I want you to do. Make sure that you have your reference book on multi-step equations first, because that's going to give you all the steps, just as you did in PIMDAS. You're going to follow steps. The first step that you want to do is see if you can distribute. In this case, I can see that there's 2 sections where I'm going to distribute because I see parentheses. When I distribute, I'm going to do 5 times 2x, which is going to give me 10x. 5 times negative 1, which is going to give me negative 5. I'm going to write what is left plus x plus 17 equals 5x. Now I'm back to distributing. 6 times x is going to give me positive 6x, so that's where I write my addition. 6 times 2 is going to give me plus 12. Now, if you look at your notes, you're going to be asked to make a t-chart. You're also going to be asked to box your variables, so you with the operation in front, and circle your constants. The only reason I'm doing this is so I know which is negative and which is positive. I have 2 boxes here. 10x plus x is going to give me 11x. I have a negative 5, that's why we circle, plus a positive 17. If you look at your integer rules, I'm actually going to subtract and take the sign of the larger number. The largest number is 17, which is positive. 17 minus 5 is 12. I'm going to put that equal to 5x plus 6x is 11x plus 12. I actually don't have to do any more, because if I go back to my text, it says solve the multi-step equation and identify the solution. If I look back at my solution type, I can see that if it's a true statement, 11x plus 12x is equal to 11x plus 12x. This is a true statement, so this is called one of 2 things: many solutions or infinite solutions. That is because it's a true statement. So make sure you go back to types of solutions and in your reference book, multi-step equations. For the rest here, I want you to do number 14 as a group. And then I also want you to go back to what a function is. Most of you guys know that, so you should be fine. And then the last but not least, we have 17 through 19. It is giving you a description of a type of solution. All you have to do is identify if it's one solution, no solution, or infinite solution. So remember to go back to your reference book, look it through, and talk it out. This will be due when I return, and make sure you give me a good sub report. Thanks, students.